Before the War of Rohirrim, and before Peter Jackson's epic trilogy, there was Ralph Bakshi's adaptation of The Lord of the Rings, which only told part of the entire story. Some might be wondering, why didn't he finish the whole adventure? Well, let's just say that's an entire story in itself. Originally, Ralph Bakshi planned to make a Lord of the Rings trilogy, where each film is based on one of the 3 books. Nowadays, that sounds perfectly logical. But back in the 1970s, that didn't make much sense to movie executives, especially when they didn't give Bakshi a massive budget to do so. So to work around that, Ralph decided to split the entire story into 2 parts. The first would cover the Fellowship of the Ring and most of the 2 Towers, while part 2 would finish off the 2 Towers and tell the Return of the King. But then the first part was released, and that's where it really got complicated. Without Bakshi's knowledge, the marketing team decided to remove the Part 1 in the title and have the movie be called just The Lord of the Rings, which resulted in backlash from audiences because they didn't know that they were only getting part of a story. And even though the movie turned out to be a box office hit, they decided to wait until they would start production on Part 2. Not just because of audiences' reactions and upsetting the Tolkien fans, but they also wanted to see how things would go with the Tolkien estate's lawsuit against Rankin Bass for their adaptation of The Return of the King. But from there, the wait was just too long and everybody just moved on. But from there, even though Bakshi's version of The Lord of the Rings was never finished, it did eventually find its audience, including giving Peter Jackson some inspiration, and went on to have a legacy of its own.